then, here we go. Sam Foley, Amber Army YouTube channel viewers. We're here with one of the greats of the modern Newport County team, Sam Foley. Sam, thanks for joining me today.
Cheers, mate. Thanks for having me.
Anytime, mate. Anytime. So I got a few questions for you. We're going to talk about your time at county and your career in general. So the first one, obviously, is about when you joined us. So you joined us in 2009. You had a loan spell, if I'm right. Obviously, when you were with Kidderminster, you joined us on loan, and then the following summer you signed for us on a permanent. What was it that convinced you to join us during that summer, if you remember?
Scott Rogers is the main reason who convinced me to join the county. The previous season, I'd been on loan at Bath City from Cheltenham, and Scotty was there at Bath when I first signed there, and then he went to Newport on loan the next season. And I was speaking to Scotty, and I was desperate to go back to Bath because I really liked all the lads, and it's a nice little club, and I just wanted to go back there. I knew the boys, knew the manager, and I kept in touch with Scotty, and Scotty was at Bath on loan at Newport, and he was saying, "No, Newport's a club for you. Get yourself down here." And obviously, Paul Bignot was on loan from Newport himself, so he was on at me to come down on loan. And yeah, I just thought, you know what, I'll do it. And I'm just so happy that I made that decision, because I mean, probably it's been the best decision I made through my career. I'd probably say that I've had some difficult decisions, and I've played for some good clubs over my career, but I think it's probably a defining moment in my career to join Newport at that time.
Oh, perfect. So obviously we won the Conference South in a record-breaking season. Was this achievable in your eyes before the season started, considering the players that we had there?
Yeah, I think it was. There was a real belief that kind of propelled us to the back end of the season before. That I think we were 10 games unbeaten, I think, when I was on loan. So there was a real belief there. And when I joined in the summer, there was just something about the group and something about the training. There just was a feeling. It was my young enthusiasm and maybe naivety that I was joining a new club, and I just was so looking forward to doing well and just enjoying football. And I just had a feeling it was going to be good. And I remember I think we were second favourites for the division, I think, in the betting at the start of the season. So there was a little bit of pressure. And we drew our first game, and everyone was kind of like, I'm in an R-in. And then it just took off after that, and it just was next level, as you know. It was unbelievable, really.
It was win after win then, wasn't it, near enough?
Yeah, it was crazy. I remember Chris Blight coming into the dressing room and saying, I think it was our first win, and he said, here's a check, lads. There'll be one for every win you get. And we went 20 games unbeaten, and he had to say, I've got to stop doing it, because the taxman's going to do me if I keep giving you a check for every win.
Oh, friggin' hell. So was there any particular special memories for you during that season? Obviously, winning the division was the special memory, but was there anything sort of, other than the norm that was particularly special for you?
For me, probably there was a great moment. I mean, I think if you talk to a lot of people, they'll probably say the Vegas trip would be the highlight. But I think that just highlights itself, the whole camaraderie that the whole squad had. But it wasn't just a squad; it was the whole football club, and that includes the fans. It might sound a bit corny, but there was a real connection back then. I don't know what it's like now, but with the players and the supporters, and just the whole community in the football club, and it was like a small family, and that whole sort of unity built something special. And it's no wonder like all the lads are looked so fondly by the supporters in the football club, because there just was an amazing connection. There was a moment, I think it was, we played Eastleigh, and I think it was like the 2 or 3rd year anniversary of my father's death. And after the game, I think Reedy had said, "Oh, we've all had a whip round for the charity fund that I'd set up for him," and I just was totally taken aback, shocked. And I remember crying in the dressing room, and it was just, lads, like, I really don't expect this of you. And I think that was so poignant in sort of the togetherness that everyone had, that, forgetting who we were, where we came from, we all were in it together. And For me, that's one of the most special memories of my life completely.
Yeah. That's one hell of a dressing room there, isn't it?
It was. And just after every game to have Scotty Rogers just singing at the top of his voice, Viva Las Vegas, every win.
Oh, was that something that was promised you at the beginning of the season then, was it?
Well, I think the older boys had kind of got stuck into the staff. After we won a few games, it was kind of like, right, if we get promoted, you've got to take us to Vegas. And I think they got roped in early doors a little bit, and then by Christmas it was nailed on. We were going, and every game it was Viva Las Vegas on in the dressing room after the final whistle.
Oh, brilliant! It's just like you'd love to be a fly on the wall in there, but then obviously you lived it. Absolutely amazing. So the Vegas trip went down well. Then I take it.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, enough said about that. It was just, I think as well back then you're probably talking sort of pre-internet like mobile phones. Now you get on like a team bus or in a dressing room and no one talks to each other. And I had an issue with like a couple of years ago with lads being on their phones in the dressing rooms at football clubs, and now you just can't not have it because it's just a necessity. And just you say to someone like, "Oh, get off your phone," and then like they'll look at you like you've got three heads. And if they do get off the phone, you look around, everyone else is on their phone.
Yeah.
Back then, you had to talk, you had to interact with each other, and everyone just got on like best mates. It was just the most amazing dressing room I've ever been in.
Yeah. Oh, great. So how was Dean Holdsworth as a manager then?
For me, he was great. Like he took me under his wing, really, as sort of like a young kid, and him being the experienced former pro, played at the highest level, and he'd make you feel 7 foot tall coming into the dressing room, and he just had a way of just making the lads. And we policed our own dressing room. We sort of, no one stepped out of line because you wouldn't do that to your mates because the bonds were there. And he just sort of shuffled everyone in line and got us out. And having so many attacking players, it was kind of easy to go out and play with confidence. And I don't think anyone took a dip in confidence during that season. Like I don't think anyone did. Maybe Charlie did because he liked to look over to the bench the odd time to check out what he was doing. But there was none of that, and he just made you feel happy and want you to enjoy football, and he'd do anything for the lads.
Yeah, definitely the sign of a good manager there. Obviously, you've got to be a good man manager as well as a manager of the game itself, obviously. So I can get why it was so special to play for him then. So obviously you got promoted, obviously winning the league. Did you and the guys think we can go for 2 in a row now? Was there a belief that could be a possibility?
I don't think there was ever that kind of belief, but there was a sort of in deep down you kind of knew, well, hold on a second, like we're all untested at this next level. Like if we can continue how we're doing, we probably could do something special, but we weren't going, right, let's do it again. And we showed that we were more than good enough for that level. And I think our league position after the first quarter was really like we really were set in a position to kick on. And obviously that's when Dean left, and it kind of just went a bit. It'd be interesting to see what would happen if Dean had stayed, really. But that I think that group of players probably went as far as what they could have done, because we had a few lads that were in there that were part time, and we were in that kind of strange transition, and the club was beginning to become the size of club it should be, but we still had our sort of like part time roots, if that makes sense. Yeah. And there was a few lads on contracts that were part time, and like myself, I think when Anthony Hudson came in, he saw that my contract was part time and just thought, I'm not dealing with any part time players. They can sit on the bench, which is probably what happened to me. But at the time, I wasn't willing to sign a new deal, so just one of those things.
It's funny if you mentioned Dean Holdsworth leaving. That was going to be my next question, how that affected the team. Because obviously, as you said, we were on a really good roll, and then Dino went to Aldershot. How did that actually affect the lads then?
It's hard to. I mean, it seems such a long time ago. I can't remember the exact what happened after he went, how the morale was and that. But sometimes when when a manager goes and they've been successful, those players, have a kind of loyalty to that manager, and whether they know it or not, their levels might just drop off a bit because their guy's gone. I'm not saying that happened. I can't specifically remember it, but it's just one of those things. That's why when a team is doing so poorly in the other direction, the manager gets the bullet because the buck stops with him. So it was obviously something to do with him leaving and someone else coming in that maybe changed things. But like I said, it was difficult because you had lads who were part-time, who were teaching and who were working and having to train, and to do as well as we did do at the early part of the season was like an incredible achievement.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, as you mentioned, Anthony Hudson eventually ended up coming in after you had Tim Harris for a little while. He seemed a good choice at first, obviously, because the form was good right at the end of the season. What do you think went wrong for him the following season?
He didn't play me enough, probably.
Well, I did want to point that one out. I wanted you to do that for me, but
I just touched on it then. When I think my contract situation was, when I signed quite a long contract really for that level, but it was like semi-professional deal that I had because we were only training 2 nights a week when I first joined. So when Anthony came in, I was going into my final year, which would have taken me to 25, I think, 24, 25, which then I can go on a free, which probably was a good thing I did because I didn't play. Because I found myself in a situation at Kidderminster where I was under the age of 24 and they wouldn't let me go to Newport on a permanent deal. They were trying to get compensation for me and I hadn't played a game for them. So I didn't really want to find myself in that awkward situation where I'm ringing one manager and then next minute I'm ringing another manager. I'm just caught in the middle of this tug of war, and it was a horrible experience, especially at a young age. So I didn't want to find myself in that situation. And I think that kind of cost me quite a bit of playing time in that final year because he'd brought players in on full-time deals and he had players who weren't his signings who were on part-time contracts, and I was just one of those.
Okay, so as I said, it didn't work out for Anthony Hudson in the end. What did Justin Edinburgh do, in your opinion, to change things around when he was appointed as manager?
He pulled me and said that, Reedy's gone, Rosie's on his way, but he said whenever he watched Newport, I was his favourite player. And he said, "Listen, I know you're not in the team at the minute when he first took over, but I'm not going to change the side. So just make sure you train hard and you'll get your opportunity." And I think my first start for him was away at Fleetwood, and I scored a hat trick. And then obviously when Gary got injured, he gave me the armband, which was one of my proudest moments leading the team out at Tamworth. And talk about like Dean sort of making you feel, 7 foot tall. Justin just made me feel like a man. Treated me with respect. Everything, how he treated you, how you'd want to be treated. It was just how his way with people was unbelievable, really. And it's just tragic to know that he's not here now.
Absolutely. Funny enough, I spoke to Aaron O'Connor, who had a lot of good words to say about him. A lot sounded very similar to what you're saying. So he must have been a really special guy to be a player for.
Yeah, not just a player to be a player for, just a special guy. And I went to the memorial service in the summer, just gone last year, and the amount of people there that he'd touched on a personal level that just had so many good words to say about him was just. I was just thinking how lucky they are. So I thought I was kind of like one of a few that had that kind of relationship with him, but it seemed like everyone he came in contact with just absolutely loved him to bits.
Absolutely, mate. I had many an interaction with him myself, and he always had the time to talk to me. Obviously, like yourself, really good with fans, really good with people, and as you said, it was so tragic, mate. But then, obviously, that season when he took charge, did you ever really fear relegation that season? I know within the mix for it for quite some time, but was there ever a time you thought, I think we might go down, yeah?
I don't think I've ever I think I'm forever the optimistic type. That I don't think I thought we're getting relegated here because I hadn't really played much of a part early in the season. I kind of had got into the team with Justin, and I was playing well. I was playing sort of a bit deeper, getting involved with a lot more of the game than I've probably done in the previous years of playing a bit higher up, and I was loving it. And I felt like I could make a real difference to the team at the time. And being obviously losing Gary was a big loss for us because he's a huge leader and he's a great defender. So losing him but then giving me the armband, I don't know if it probably doesn't work now getting an extra % out of me, but back then it just made me want to work so hard, and I think that kind of made me the player I am. Sort of that back end period of that season, I just thought, you know what, I'm just going to go for it, and I think we can stay up, and we were good enough in the end.
Yeah, well, certainly your performance has played a big part in keeping us up. Obviously, we stayed up, and the key moment of that season was, of course, Wembley at the end of it. What was it like to play there? Had you ever played there yourself before that?
No, it's quite bittersweet, really. The whole experience was brilliant. I've obviously never playing sort of a decent standard up to that time. I'd never experienced playing at a ground like that, or even experiencing the whole lead up to it. Going over, staying a nice hotel, training at a nice training ground, having everything prepared for you, and it was all new to me. It was great. I loved it, and just on the day we just weren't good enough. York obviously had a good season, and they'd done really well. And we were quite lucky with our run in the competition. I think it was Forest Green was the only other Conference Premier side that we played against.
So it was here. We had Worksop, Northwich Victoria, Wealdstone on the run up.
Cures and Ashton, we have them.
Was it Carshalton?
Carshalton, yeah. And Forest Green. I remember that game because I got sent off.
Oh, I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah.
At least we went through anyway. It didn't cost it.
Yeah, it's a good one to forget about. Yeah, we had quite a good run in the competition. So to get all the way there, we were quite lucky with the draw. But York had a great season. I think they lost in the playoffs as well, didn't they? A week later.
Yeah, they won the playoffs, didn't they? They beat Luton in the final.
All right.
Yeah, because they went up that season.
Yeah, but yeah, it was great. It was great to play there at Wembley. It was unbelievable. But I just remember the pain after the game of thinking, this day's wasted on me because I've lost. It made me realise how much I actually loved football because you could come to a place like that and it just. I don't think there's one picture of me smiling. So I think all the pictures are in the bin, and my shirt's gone as well. I threw my shirt away.
Oh well, but obviously you had another crack at it because I know you eventually left us for the Football League. You ended up going to Yeovil, and you won promotion with them in your first season with them. So you played a big part in that. No surprise to us, of course. Tell us a bit about that season at Yeovil.
I remember turning up, and they must have thought, who is this guy? Because I just come from non-league. I just had no education about how to be a footballer, how to be a full-time footballer. I had a crash course my last season at Newport, but it wasn't anything. We were training at a school once a week, then we train at a park next week. So then Yeovil went in there, and they were just thinking, who is this guy? And I wasn't in the team during pre-season, and I think they were kind of just took a chance on me, to have a look at me. I was on the cheap. I was free. I played quite a bit of games, and I remember Gary Johnson rang me. I was in the dressing room. I was one of the last to leave on a Friday, and he rang me, and we had Stoke the next day in a friendly, and he rang me and said, "Oh, just to let you know, you're starting tomorrow. If the season was to begin tomorrow, you'd be in the starting 11. So, just saying, well done, and just keep going." And I think that's the only time he ever praised me. And I just said, "Oh, right, okay, well, no pressure on you then." And he went, "No, all the pressure's on you." I was like, "Oh, cheers." So, obviously, I got in at side then. We did well against Stoke, and the team, we had a real good bond in that team as well. And we just had a great season, punched, well and truly above our weight. We were favourites to get relegated, and we almost went up automatic on the last day. And we were, we were putting away teams like Bournemouth, Brentford, putting them to the sword really. And it was just a team that was built on hard work. And I think the playoff team, I think the midfield four, I played on the left. The midfield four are all now what I am now. Probably hard for county fans to believe, but I'm a sort of defensive midfielder now. I'll just go in there and run around and put myself about. The four midfielders are all workers, and I think that's kind of the cornerstone of how that team did so well. Was just they were just full of grafters. Yeah. There were times when we didn't fill the bench, which was incredible, really, for a League One side. We were playing games and we had four on the bench, and the sub goalie was a goalie coach. If we had an injury crisis, we would have been screwed. There was literally no other players. The kit man used to join in 11v11s to make numbers up when we were going through tactics. It was bizarre. It was great. It's what football's about. Those things, overcoming obstacles like that. But yeah, to get over to the Championship was, I think I had to pinch myself, because from playing Conference South to playing in Championship was just a bizarre journey, and it happened in such a short space of time.
Right, because you're talking about obviously, being in that sort of part-time mentality, and then all of a sudden you're a full-time footballer playing one division away from the Premier League. I mean, that must have been absolutely surreal.
It was surreal. It was, and probably as football development goes, like probably a bit too soon for me. It just happened all too soon, and I got through my first season in League One on just pure BS. Just I don't know how I did it. I blagged it. I just absolutely blagged it. I ran around, tried my hardest, got knocked over, got up again, tried again, and my football education has kind of over the years. If I was the player I am now, playing at that level, I would have found it so much easier. I would have known so much more of what to have done. But
yeah,
I got through it at the time, and I had one of my best seasons really on just playing on instinct.
Because obviously we've had many a battle with Yeovil. I've gone down there every time we played there, and you can see the whole place was just decorated in that season. And we see you in so many different images, pasted up on their walls. I mean, you can see how much that meant to them. You can see obviously how much it meant to you. Obviously, Yeovil then suffered relegation the following season. Do you think it was purely to a lack of resource that the club couldn't maintain that level within the Championship?
Yeah, I think when the biggest sign was when QPR came down to Hewish Park, and I think their whole wage bill for a month was the size of Yeovil's for the year, or something like that. And I think Christopher Samba was on 80 grand a week, and we didn't have anyone on more than 2 grand a week.
Yeah.
And it's like, how can you can't compete with that? And I think Gary Johnson being Gary Johnson and being strong-willed and rules of an iron rod, he probably was a bit too much that way, rather than bending his ways to allow to get bigger players in, because we had a few on loan that were big personalities that were on loan from big clubs, but it was Gary's way or the highway, and a few of them just switched off from him. I think Ishmael Miller came in and he was getting paid a mountain of money by Nottingham Forest to not do anything, and he wasn't costing Yeovil anything. And Gary Johnson said, if you don't want to be here, there's the door. And he walked out and went on holiday to Dubai for 2 months at the end of the season. And we really could have done with someone like him, and he probably could have. He could have given us a chance of staying in the division, but that's just how Gary did things, and he's never going to change. That same mentality is what gets him promotions. So I think if we had stayed up, it would have just been a matter of time before they eventually would have fallen back down to their level.
So eventually from there then, you found your way back to the county last pre-season on trial. Did you feel that you did enough to earn a contract with us within that pre-season? Also, what would have meant to you to play for us again? And then, sorry to throw a triple header on you then, would you have offered something else, something we may have been lacking this season?
I remember speaking to Wayne Hatswell, and he sort of he gave me a call, asked me what I was doing, because I think it was getting towards the end of pre-season, and I still hadn't had a club, but I was kind of just enjoying being at home with my 2 young kids, and the way football goes now with pre-season and the transfer window, I thought someone like me, I might be a little bit more valuable to a team once the window shuts, because they won't be able to sign players, and all they have to look for is free transfers. So I was in a quite good position. I was still getting my severance package off Northampton. So when Hats rang me, I think they were kind of under the impression that I was scratching around looking for a club. So they offered me the chance to come down and train. And I just said straight up to him, I was saying, listen, this is the money I was on last season, and this is the money that I'd be willing to take. I don't want to waste everyone's time on coming all the way down there for us to break down in negotiations if we're way off the mark. So, you need to tell me now if it's worth me coming down or not. And he said, yeah, get yourself down. So I jumped in my car as quick as anything to get down to Newport. Arrived, was told there was a game against Weston-super-Mare, which Hats conveniently forgot to tell me when we were speaking. He says, I told you. I said, well, Hats, I think that's something you would have mentioned. I know I would have remembered it if you had said we had a game. So I said, yeah, go on then, I'll play in the game. So I trained in the morning, went to the game. Flinny wasn't at training, so he came to the game at night, and Flinny just said, oh, how long do you want to play? Well, I'll play as long as you want me to. So, as long as I was out back in a county shirt, which I absolutely loved, and he played a full strength team, and I was in the middle of it. So I thought, well, I could get used to this, like playing with these boys, because I'd obviously watched them. They had a great season the year before. I'm good mates with Matty Dolan, so it was good to see him down there. And then so I played the game. I was well out of touch because I got to about an hour and I was spent. I was knackered. My legs had gone. So I came off then, and we trained the next day. So did a bit of training, and I just was thinking, what's going on here? I'm down here. No one said anything. So I went into training the next day. Physios pulled me and said, "Oh, can I just take a few details off you if you're going to be staying here for a while?" So I've gone in. So I just thought I need to pull Finney here and just find out what's happening. And I pulled Finney, and he just said that he doesn't know what he could offer me. And I was a little bit disappointed because I come all the way down there, and I was under the impression that I was going to be coming back and signing, and I was willing to take a big pay cut on what I was on before to play there, and just to play back in a county shirt would have been great. I've always dreamt of going back, but it's not always what happens in football, and it was just one of those things. Really, it was a shame, but that happens.
I think a lot of us got our hopes up that we were going to have you back, and I think after the season progressed, and you could see that there was something different about this from the year before. There was something missing on our build up to the attack. We definitely felt you could have been someone who could have made that difference. But as it happens, you went up north, across the border to Scotland. Yeah. So basically, how's life in Scotland at the moment for you?
Yes, I love it up here. Really, it's I honestly would never have thought I would have come up here, and I'd actually been offered the chance to come up, and I was sitting on the offer when I went down to Newport, funny enough. So I hadn't made my mind up on coming up here, and it was only that morning I was down in Newport that all the details of the deal had come through. And Flinny knows the gaffer up here, Jim Goodwin. He played with him at Stockport, I think he played with him. So he knows him. So he was straight away saying, you'd love Jim. He's a great guy. So that helped kind of ease my fears of coming up here. But I'm so happy I came up. The gaffer's... he's great, really looks after me, probably because I'm close to his age, but I'm much closer to his age than I am my teammates, which is a worrying thing. But he's really good. There's a good group of boys up there. The football club's run brilliantly. It's kind of like a similar size to what Newport is, and I think it's just Scottish people in general. They just love their football.
So St Mirren, that's in the Glasgow area, isn't it?
Yes, that's Paisley. So that's sort of like right. Glasgow Airport.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I actually lived in Glasgow for a short spell myself, so I don't know. I didn't realise that myself. But then how did you find the people in Glasgow then? Because I got on with people in Glasgow.
Yeah, really nice. Like I'd say there's the Scottish, the Irish, and the Welsh have all got something in common. It's probably that they're not English, which is the common denominator there. I think I think they're all just like friendly, social people, and I always got that impression with the Welsh. My family were Irish, so I think social boundaries don't really come into Irish DNA. They just get on with you regardless, and the Scottish are the same.
Yeah. So you got a bit of a taste of all the three sort of Celtic nations. Then happy days.
Yeah, I've not played in Ireland, so I've played in Wales, England, and Scotland. So maybe I'll have to make a trip over the Irish Sea and complete the set.
Well, funny enough, that brings me nice on to the next question. Well, what further ambitions are there for you? Do you have any?
I think my sort of my footballing ambition was to play till I was at least 35. I think if I get to 35 and I've had enough, I'll finish. But sort of 35 is my aiming point. That'll take me to next October when I'm 35. So I'm 34 this October, and then the year after, and just go from there. If I'm still enjoying it, my legs are still working, which I feel like I'm physically like as good as I've ever been, really fitness wise. So I can keep playing, and much to the annoyance of my partner, I'll think about my alternative career when I finish playing. So
Coaching on the cards for you, do you think?
Is what? Sorry.
Coaching.
Yeah, I've started doing badges. I think it's just a natural progression, really, to get your badges done. And I've done a little bit with the academy at St Mirren, so it's good to kind of dip into that, try and pass your knowledge onto the kids. And if I enjoy it enough, maybe it's something I'll do. But we'll have to see. I enjoy playing, enjoy winning too much to sort of think about doing that at the minute.
You never know. A future county manager in the making. I'll spit my words out there. Who knows?
Maybe one day.
We seem to have a thing about ex-players at the moment, so you never know. One day. Final question then. I pretty much ask everybody this. Who's the best player you played with and the best player you played against?
Best player I played with, best player I played against. There's a Man United theme with this. Best player I played with, Danny Rose.
I had a feeling that was coming. You said Man United.
He did something down the left wing, down the right wing at Welling. I'd come off. It was late in the game. We were winning, and he's running down the line, and he did a trick with his weak foot that I couldn't even do with my stronger foot. And I just thought, this kid is just next level. He was brilliant. Like, you don't find many left-footed players naturally who are two-footed. In fact, he's the only one I can think of. He honestly, he should have gone on and had a much better career than what he's done, and he's had an unbelievable career, and his career is still going. And I'd love him to just keep playing and doing what he does. But he was just privileged to play with and train with day in, day out. And probably the best player I played against, Wayne Rooney. I played against him when in an FA Cup game, went for Yeovil, and just glided across the grass. He was strong. His touch. He'd just dump it off before you get there. His movement. I couldn't get near him. I was playing kind of like a deep midfielder, so he was coming in and getting on the ball, and I just didn't know where he was for the whole game. It was a masterclass, really. He just oozed class. It's hard to explain, really.
It must have been a pleasure to play against someone like that. To see it close up. The things that he could do.
Yeah, I think one of the great things is to share a field with them, and it kind of boosts you a little bit because you think they are human.
Yeah,
this guy is real. Like he's not like a figment of my imagination. He is a real person, and he's still unbelievable.
Correct. Oh, well, Sam, that's all I got for you then, mate. Thank you very much for joining me. It's been a pleasure to catch up with you, mate. And of course, all the best with the rest of your career. And hopefully we will see you in South Wales one day soon.
Maybe. Cheers, Chris. Thanks a lot, mate.
So, cheers, Sam. Many thanks for watching the latest content on the Amber Army channel. Please make sure you leave us a like
Make sure you subscribe for more content, both for the neutral football fan and also plenty of Newport County. Even more Newport County content can be found on the club's iFollow channel on the link above. It is just £4.49 per month to subscribe to that service. And those of you feeling extra generous can also support us on Patreon on the link at the bottom there. That would be a monthly donation of your choice. Thank you again, make sure you've subscribed, and as always, up the county.